NDSU sits alone atop the Missouri Valley Football Conference following a hard-fought win over Western Illinois. After a sluggish start, the Bison overcome their first halftime deficit, moving to 7-0 on the season. Easton Stick leading the Bison offense on the ground and through the air, responsible for all 3 touchdowns on the day. The top defense in the country kept Western out of the end zone, continuing a dominating 2017 campaign. NDSU now set their sights on a familiar foe in northern Iowa, a physical team coming off back-to-back wins against ranked opponents. It's NDSU and UNI in a smash-mouth showdown at the Fargo Dome.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Hello and welcome into the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. I am Alex Egan. She is Beth Houle. We are getting excited. Another Saturday of fun.
I love this week.
Yeah, this week is very, very fun for NDSU fans. It's Northern Iowa and North Dakota State. What can you ask for if you're a college football fan?
Oh my goodness. This has everything you could want. It's got the emotional connections, the familial connections. I mean, former coaches being former UNI players. They've worked there. There's now a third one in Courtney Messingham, who's from the Waterloo area as well. It's just an exciting time to be a football fan. This is going to be a hard-fought football game. It's dug out in the trenches. It's a lot of fun. It's, like you said, everything you could want in a college football game.
And keep in mind, first place is on the line. We will talk about that in just a few moments. We'll get into the standings of the Missouri Valley Football Conference. One team remains unbeaten. That is North Dakota State. Let's go out to the Fargo Dome. Ryan Gellner, the third member of our pregame show, standing by. Ryan, happy Football Saturday to you.
Yeah, happy Football Friday to you guys. And Beth alluded to it. There are so many connections between these two football teams. It really is unprecedented. You've got Chris Kleiman, who grew up in Cedar Falls, played there, Coach Messingham, the offensive coordinator at North Dakota State, same thing. He's got ties to the program. Matt Entz, the defensive coordinator, was at UNI. And then you think about the players on this football team. It's really a connection between them because a lot of the UNI players were recruited by NDSU. A lot of the NDSU players recruited by UNI. So those players have a history. And then there's a history between these football teams. They have played over 50 times against each other throughout the first 40 because this rivalry really started when there was a fight between Pat Paschal and LJ Fort on the sidelines when Fort threw that punch up against the Bison sideline. That started this rivalry, and that turned this thing around big time. As far as today's game, a couple of questions. UNI, can they continue what they've done running the football? We'll talk a lot about Marcus Weimiller, who has 303 yards on 71 carries in his last 2 games, and his story, unbelievable. Can they keep that up? Their defense had 10 sacks a week ago against Youngstown State. Can they get to the Bison quarterback? And then for NDSU, how about Bruce Anderson? Can he excel as the primary back? We'll try to answer some of those questions. And then that offensive line for NDSU. I get the feeling the Bison want to throw early in this football game, early on downs, first and second down. Can the offensive line hold up to that task? Those are just some of the many questions I have, guys. But no doubt about it, these two football teams, I don't think really like each other. These two football teams want to win, and it is a huge game for UNI. Big one for NDSU as well.
Certainly is. Thank you very much, Ryan. We'll be checking in with you throughout the rest of the broadcast there out at the Fargo Dome.
Boy, he puts that nicely. He doesn't think they like each other very much. I'll be a little bit more blunt. These two don't like each other, you guys. They don't. And I think that's fair to say about the fans as well. If Bison fans that have traveled to northern Iowa in years past, you know what I'm talking about. This is a heated rivalry, top to bottom.
Well, hey, let's go back to when UNI snapped the winning streak. That's really where this kind of got going as well. That winning streak snapped.
Just another thing you can add on to it. Absolutely.
Certainly one of the best rivalries in the Missouri Valley Football Conference and in NDSU's short time in the MVFC. That's certainly what
And it's not only because of all of those emotions, but it's also because the two football teams can really match up against each other. We're talking about two football teams that want to run the football, that want to attack, and want to dominate that style of football. I mean, Chris Kleiman got his start somewhere, and that started when he played college football. Kind of his idea, his way of thinking when it comes to how the college football game should be played, and you can see it in how these two teams attack each other.
Certainly something that we'll be paying attention to. Another thing we'll be paying attention to today is how good the Bison defense has been. It has been remarkable what this Bison defense has been able to put out the last several weeks, really over the course of the entire season. They've pitched a couple shutouts. Last week, they kept Western Illinois out of the end zone. The only touchdown that the Leathernecks got was on a pick six. So this Bison defense is playing at an extremely high level right now.
They're leading the nation in everything.
Yeah, pretty much. You look
darn near everything.
Yeah, you look at the NCAA statistics, and it's all NDSU. There's actually a bunch of familiar names up there, but NDSU is pretty much at the top of every team category.
Absolutely, and I got to talk to defensive coordinator Matt Entz this week. Kind of did a State of the Union, if you will, with both of the coordinators this week. Matt Entz talking about how good this team is, but pointing out that a lot of it is because of how the veteran leadership that they have. If you look down that depth chart, it's a lot of juniors and seniors. Yes, they've got, you know, on that Sam linebacker is absolutely going some of your youngest guys out there, but you've got some really good leadership, a lot of experience, and the guys backing up at safety and all of those positions, yeah, those guys are a little bit younger, but this is a confident group, and they aren't just confident, they're also still hungry and looking for more, and that's the best scenario possible.
They've done a good job of that next man up mentality that we always talk. Everybody talks about that in college football, next man up, next man up. I heard it last night when I was watching some football games. Everybody says it. NDSU practices it. That's what is really crazy to me about how good this Bison defense is, because they lost, you know, Nick DeLuca went out for a game or two. They've lost Dan Marlette for the season. They've had issues at that linebacker spot with Matt Plank being out for a couple games. He's back now, but Chris Board is now out, but in steps Jabril Cox. In steps, you know, some of these other younger guys. That next man up mentality, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to practice it.
And I'm going to take that one step further. It's not just next man up when there's an injury. It's that next man up when it's who's going to have the big game, who's going to have the standout performance. You look down at who have we talked about. Last week it was Caleb Butler. The week before that it was Jabril Cox. The week before that we were talking about Hendrickson. Hendricks, you know, you just go down the list of guys that have been having outstanding performances. And I think what you're seeing is other teams trying to find the weak link in this Bison defense, and they've tried to attack different areas on that Bison lineup, and they haven't found a weak link yet.
You said you got a chance to talk with Matt Entz today, and I loved what he said to you. He's talking about the depth. Let's just hear it from Matt Entz. This is great.
That gives us a ton of extra depth in certain positions. So, you know, I like where we're at right now. Now, ask me again on Saturday, I may give you a different answer.
So we'll talk to him after the game and see.
So honest, though, and that's what I love about Matt Entz. I mean, so honest, and he's hungry for his guys to continue to make improvements. I said that the players are confident, but that they aren't complacent in where they're at. That comes from the top, and in particular, Matt Entz. He's always looking for that next place, that next thing that these guys can do, and he's looking for it today.
Very quickly, let's take a look at the Missouri Valley Football Conference standings, because last week was bananas across the conference. We saw one of the undefeated teams in South Dakota go down. They are now 3-1, and look at this bottleneck after the Bison sitting alone, undefeated at 4-0, 7-0 overall. Look, if Northern Iowa wins today, they're sitting at 4-1 in the conference. North Dakota State is sitting at 4-1 in the conference. There is a lot on the line today. It's not just UNI, NDSU. There's some standings on the line here.
And I just can't get over looking at that. Youngstown State is 1-3.
Where are they at? Yes,
but they're so good.
They're 1-3, and they've lost every game by less than a touchdown. That's just how crazy
the Missouri Valley is absolutely insane.
Yeah, we'll see if there's another. Yeah, we'll see if there's another bananas weekend this weekend as well. That is. I mean, these two teams.
These games matter.
Yeah, they matter.
It's tough. And you know what? This is going to be a tough test for the Bison. Absolutely. They're 4-0, but they're playing. This is the gauntlet of their season right now. Absolutely.
Very good. We are going to step aside. We come back. We'll get to know the Panthers a little bit more. Speak with their play-by-play voice. That is all next here to come on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. The Panthers arriving at the Fargo Dome, bringing their 3-1 Missouri Valley Football Conference record with them to take on unbeaten North Dakota State today. 2:30 kickoff. We'll be taking you right up to kickoff at the Fargo Dome. We welcome you back to our Fargo studios. The Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show rolls on. Let's get to know the Panthers a little bit more and talk with longtime play-by-play voice Gary Rima. Ryan Gellner standing by.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Gary Rima in his 24th year calling play-by-play for the Panther Sports Network. And, Gary, these two teams certainly know each other. If there's love lost, I'm not sure, but these two teams really like to get after each other.
I tell you what, this is one of the great matchups every year when we get a chance to play the Bison. It's the great rivalry in the Valley, really, if you look at it. These two, when North Dakota State came into the league, I think they wanted what the Panthers had, and that was to pretty much regularly win the automatic berth out of the Valley. And now we kind of want what the Bison have. You guys have won this regular season title for a number of years in a row. So, yeah, it's two great teams, two great coaches, two great programs that collide here again today, with exciting for us because first place on the line if we could get a victory in this house today.
Yeah, arguably again for the opponents, probably a bigger game for your team this week than it is North Dakota State because of what you just said, that playoff seed trying to track down the team that's in front of you. This is a big one for your squad, and it can answer a lot of different questions.
Yeah, a huge game for us because we dropped a game to Western Illinois. We lost a couple of non-conference games. You know, we started a string of games against top 10 ranked teams 2 weeks ago, knowing we had 4 right in a row, and we were going to have to put together a winning streak against top 10 ranked teams, best teams in the league. Winning these last 2 games against South Dakota State and Youngstown State has got us back in the hunt, but we can't stumble today if we want to stay on the right track to be a playoff team when the regular season comes to an end.
Help me out with this. Your team hadn't run the football very well all season long. Now, all of a sudden, you get a kid that you give the ball to almost 100 times the last 2 games, and he can run it. What's going on?
Well, they say Marcus Miller. We say, why not? I mean, the kid's really done a great job. The running game was just almost non-existent. We were only averaging about 65 yards per game our first 5. Marcus got hurt in the second game of the regular season on a kickoff, and he was going to be a big part of the offense. They had the Wildcat offense in for him from game 1. They were going to use it against Cal Poly. They wanted to use it against Southern Utah and then into the conference, but he gets hurt. Thought he had a season-ending injury. Comes back 2 weeks ago against South Dakota State. They thought they'd use him maybe 10, 12, 15 plays. He was so good. Ran the football 42 times, 170 yards. A lot of it direct handoffs. Not all Wildcat stuff, but some Wildcat stuff. And then last week, 132 yards against Youngstown State's defense. He's re-energized our offense. Our passing game has always been really good. Now we've got more of a complete offense, Ryan, and I think we got a chance to be pretty special as long as we keep running the football and Eli Dunn throwing the football. Great receivers to throw to. We're just a more complete offense now.
And defense not too bad. 10 sacks against Youngstown a week ago. That's pretty good. What concerns you about the Bison? What concerns, not you, I guess we don't care about you. What concerns this team about the Bison?
I think part of the concern, can our offense be productive today? Our defense is playing really good, and I think our defense will do another really solid job. The Bison are going to score some points. I mean, you're not going to shut them out. So I think our concern basically out of the gate is, can we move the football? Are we able to run it against the best rush defense in the Missouri Valley Football Conference? If Miller and the running game gets going today, the play action pass stuff will work, and then I think we can be effective. If we can't run the football and we become one-dimensional, that's where the concern sets in. So I just think the key, I think, early to watch for is, are we able to move the football, keep drives alive? We've been really good on third down our last couple of games where we hadn't been real good. If our offense works today, I think we got a shot.
Gary, I'm proud of you. You actually said Bison. You said it correct. Congratulations.
You know, when I come in here, I feel like I got to say Bison. On my radio show, I do say Bison a lot, but I just feel like I got to say Bison when I'm in your house. So, no, that's pretty cool that you guys have your own way of saying that. So, it works. You know, I mean,
it works. Gary, really appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, should be a great game. Enjoy it.
Yeah, it should be. Back to you guys.
Gary.
Not making too many fans here in the Fargo-Moorhead area.
I do appreciate the respect for the Bison house, though. You have to give him credit there.
Absolutely. One of the guys that they talked about in their interview there was Marcus Miller.
Oh, no, you can't just, why Miller?
Why
we say
not?
Why not?
That's
you can't let that just blow by.
Okay, yeah, so why Miller? These stats here are from the 2 games that he's played this year. 71 carries in 2 games. Talk about a workhorse. 302 yards, averaging 151 yards in those 2 games. Here, I got to tell you this.
3 games.
Sorry, yes.
3 games.
I got to tell you this. Where's my notes here? Okay. Weimiller is the first Panther back since David Johnson. Have you heard of him?
Good
Have you heard of him? To earn at least 2 170-yard rushing performances for his career. And his back-to-back 100-yard rushing games are the first for a Panther since Aaron Bailey, a quarterback who the Bison fans might remember from a couple years back.
He's in good company.
In 2015. So those are where Weimiller is. You have to be able to contain this guy. You're going to see him as a running back. You're going to see him in that wildcat role, and they're dangerous. I watched the game against Youngstown State, and he's hard to find. He's a short little guy back there behind the O-line. He's shifty. He's good. He turns those 5-yard gains into 7-yard gains, those 3-yard gains into 5-yard gains. It's going to be really important for the Bison defense to make sure that when they tackle him, when they hit him, they drive him backwards because he will gain extra yards.
Well, you said it all. There's not
Anything
a ton
to add?
There's not a ton to say about this guy, though. Like you said, he's only played in a few games now this season after coming back from an injury. So, I mean, that's really it. You read the stat line, and we know he's good and shifty.
I took the words right out of your mouth. That's what I did.
He's tough, though.
He is tough. He is tough. You know who else is tough?
Who?
Tailgaters in this weather, and that's where we find Mike Morkin braving the cold out in the tailgate lot.
North
with our tailgate
Dakota
report.
tough.
North Dakota tough. Thank you.
John Gruden.
Let's go to Mike Morkin. Mike?
Okay, thanks everybody. We are out here at the tailgate section next to the Fargo Dome for another round of Bison tailgate trivia. I have 2 contestants that are anxiously awaiting their opportunity to win possibly a $50 gift card from either the True Blue Social Club or Lucky's 13 Pub. My first contestant, since we'll go ladies first, is your name?
Donna.
Donna, what's your last name?
Chris Lieb.
You're very popular here, Donna. That's a good thing. Are you ready to answer?
Yes, I am.
All right, here we go. First question. From 1910 through 1992, that's 82 years, the Bison football team played their home games in Fargo. Where? Was it the Dakota Field or Field of Dreams?
Dakota Field.
Dakota Field, crowd, is she correct? Yeah! You are correct. Very good. Very good. And you win a $50 gift card to the True Blue Social Club. Congratulations. Here, just hold on to that. Okay. Very good, Donna. Now the pressure's on. Feel it?
I'm going to try and do my best.
All right, here we go.
Let's see what happens.
Who holds the single game record for most receiving yards with 232? Was it Len Kretschmann or Len Dawson?
For the Bison?
For the Bison.
We're going to go with Len Kretschmann.
Len Kretschmann. Do you happen to know who Len Dawson is?
Deep relative of Tom Dawson's?
Yeah. Dawson Insurance, correct. No, okay, so the answer you said was Len Kretschmann, and that is correct.
Yes. Woo!
I didn't realize when I wrote this I would be in the Dawson Insurance tent, but that worked out real well. Congratulations, Steve. You already have your gift card to Lucky's 13 Pub. Everybody that wins, everybody that plays, everybody wins. That's a fun game, isn't it?
We like these games.
All right, so thanks so much for participating. We'll be back with another couple of contestants later on. Back to the studio.
The Halloween costumes out in full force. More of the pregame show to come right after this.
It's the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Welcome back to our Fargo studios, the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. Let's go back out to the Fargo Dome now. Ryan Gellner standing by with Dr. Ben Noonan.
Hi guys, field level now with Dr. Ben Noonan, our Sanford Health update. We continue talking about when should you go in. So let's play this scenario now, Ben. If you're a young quarterback and you take a hit to the ribs, obviously it's going to hurt, but how do you decide when something to the rib area, and as sensitive as that is, when that's serious and when that's just go home and ice?
Well, that's a good question. I think that's the number one thing, is to try to sort out, is it a real serious injury, which can be potentially life-threatening to that area of the body, or is it something you can kind of wait on a little bit? And real serious things would be injuries to the structures under the rib, the heart, the blood vessels, the organs of the abdomen, and those typically would be heralded by a real sense like something's not right. It's often described as impending doom. An athlete might have chest pain, shortness of breath. They could cough or spit up blood. a lot of pain in the abdomen away from the ribs. Those are all things that should really send you to the emergency room immediately. You know, if you're in a place like the Dome with the care that we have, that would be recognized immediately. But if you're out more remotely, that should be go right into the ER. You know, after that, most of the injuries are treated pretty conservatively, whether it's a bruise to the rib, a small rib fracture, a muscle strain. So you could give those a couple days. But if an athlete is having point tenderness over a rib and maybe can't take a deep breath, I would say go in and be evaluated. Usually we get an x-ray to look for a rib fracture, and at least then we can give you some guidance on how long it might be. But there's not a lot we can do other than rest and ice and protecting it. And it takes several weeks to recover from either a bruise or a small fracture to the rib.
Initially, you always hear from athletes that it hurts to breathe. That's pretty common though, right?
Right, yeah. You know, I would say differentiate between just normal hard breathing at rest versus when you take a deep breath, almost all the injuries are going to hurt. So it's a little bit of a fine line there, but if you're really struggling to breathe, we'd want to see you right away.
All right, good stuff. Those rib injuries, they will hurt. And I guess if you think you should go in, go in. Guys, that's Ben Noonan on the sideline. Now back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Noonan and Ryan. Let's take a look at who is in and who is out today for the Bison. Lance Dunn suffering that hip injury last week. We are not expecting him to play today, listed as out. Ty Brooks, though, some good news. He is expected to play today after missing the last couple games with a leg injury. Chris Board still nursing that knee injury that he suffered against Youngstown State.
This is a tough one to lose Lance Dunn on, not only because he's a Waterloo kid and this is his hometown game, but last year's game was his game. He had 119 yards on 23 carries in that 24-20 win for the Bison at the Unidome. A tough one to see him out for.
Yeah, well, certainly we'll talk about what the Bison are going to do at running back a little bit later on in the show, but let's talk about what both teams have going today at quarterback, a very important position on the football field. We'll start with the Bison and who they throw out there. Signal caller Easton Stick.
Just throwing him out there.
Does okay here with the 2,300 passing yards.
And you know what,
I'm
really looking forward to it. He is tied with a certain player named Carson Wentz for career touchdown passes in NDSU history. I think that's really cool. I'm excited to see him eclipse Wentz. Then the only guys ahead of him, Brock Jensen and Steve Walker.
Yeah, and the Panthers will throw out a junior by the name of Eli Dunn, and that's not Eli Dunn, but Eli Dunn, he has done well for himself throughout the course. There he is. There's Eli. We were throwing it back to Indiana State there for a little bit. It's nearly 1,800 yards passing. He does not run the football. He's negative yardage when it comes to running the football. The Bison saw him last year because we thought we would see Aaron Bailey. Aaron Bailey was hurt. Eli Dunn came in, and Eli Dunn didn't fare so well against the Bison.
4 interceptions.
Yeah, not so great.
In the fourth quarter, or 2 of those in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, well, certainly when the game was on the line. But he is another year experience, and he's throwing, basically 2-to-1 touchdowns to interceptions right now. So that's
looks pretty good. Hitting Fountain, one of their wide receivers, a 6'1" receiver for UNI this year. They seem to have developed a pretty nice connection. Another one for the Bison defense to go ahead and keep their eyes on.
Yeah, certainly a guy that you need to get after if you want to have some success against this Northern Iowa offense. A couple guys that have had some success for the Bison offense themselves. Again, I think we say this every week. Guys that are good at playing football, not so great at telling jokes. Here's this week's Heard This One.
I can't look at him for that long. He's so ugly. What did Lion King say to Simba when he was walking too slow?
I don't know, RG.
Mufasa.
Why are skeletons so calm?
Why?
Because nothing gets under their skin.
That was kind of good. What did one cannibal say to the other while they were eating a clown?
Tell me.
Does this taste funny to you?
What's brown and sticky?
What?
Stick. Duh.
You're right. What did one ocean say to the other ocean?
Nothing, they just waved.
That's absurd.
Why should you not write with a dull pencil?
Why?
Because it's pointless.
That was a good one.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Back inside the Fargo Dome, 32 minutes to kickoff between North Dakota State and UNI. Should be a good one. Lee Timmerman is here. Brian Schott is here. They will call today's game from upstairs. Guys, this should be a good football game. Let's get right into RG's keys, the way we see things turning out in this football game. And number one for North Dakota State is stop the run, which might sound insane because UNI, through the first 5 games, averaged 55 yards a game running the football. Since then, though, since October 14th, Marcus Waymiller has been awesome. He was a wide receiver, ran some Wildcat, but Bichon, this kid is pretty special. They put him at running back 2 weeks ago, 42 carries, 170 yards at South Dakota State, 29 carries, 132 yards last week at Youngstown.
Yeah, the one thing I think he does really well is run between the tackles, and I think that's what Northern Iowa was missing throughout the first, 5 or so games of the season. This guy was not healthy, had an ankle issue. Very comparable to Chase Morlock. That's what Chris Kleiman told me on Wednesday. A one-cut and get downhill real quick kind of guy. May not break a 50-yarder, but a guy that may be able to stretch a 3-yard run into a 5-yard run, that type of guy. So for North Dakota State, it's going to be important to bring him down on first contact and not give up those extra yards after contact.
And LT, he's a guy that started at Wildcat, but this is a team that will run Wildcat, so we'll see him under center, we'll see him in shotgun, not just at running back.
If he's not being productive as a running back, there is not a quarterback run option. Bailey's not around for this team right now, so that's when you will see Waymiller go to that Wildcat position. So he'll run it a little bit, especially short yardage, and the Panthers like to do it down inside the 10 too.
Let's go back into our keys of the football game, and number 2 is protect the pocket, and we are talking about protecting Easton Stick, because last week at Youngstown, Northern Iowa sacked the quarterback 10 times. Now, to be fair, Brian, NDSU sacks Youngstown 6 times, but 10 sacks in one game. They're doing something right.
Yeah, they are, and I think it's all about the way they've moved some pieces around to put them in the positions to be successful. Ricky Neal had 3.5 of those sacks. He's a very talented defensive end, 241 pounds, really understands the position more this year. But despite that, Youngstown State still had a chance to win the football game last week and lost 19-14. So I think the key for North Dakota State is to make sure they keep an eye out for which pressures are coming from which players and make sure they pick those things up, get the ball out on time, and as LT mentioned to me a little bit earlier, get the ball downfield and try to hurt their back with some deep passing plays.
Yeah, and I think they'll try to do that first and second down. Look for NDSU to throw the football a little bit more today. Our final key, and this one a little bit off the charts because you won't find it in stats, and that's special teams. Jackson Kuntz, to me, struggled last week. He had a 24-yard punt, a 39-yard punt in the fourth quarter. On the flip side, though, Jalen Rima, he's really special, an all-conference special teamer for Northern Iowa that can flat out fly. He had 2 returns for a touchdown last year. He's been limited with injuries this year, Lee, but he is ready to go, and he is fully healthy. Special teams could mean a lot today.
Yeah, the Bison hope this isn't the day he breaks one, but anytime he touches the ball could be the time it goes. He missed a game earlier this year. He's been banged up a little bit. I don't know if he's quite 100% yet, but yeah, he was a 110-meter high hurdle champion in high school. Anyone who can do that is a very good athlete, and you're right. Whenever he touches it, has a chance to go, and they're using him probably not as much as I thought they would through the passing game, but he's capable of getting on one of those verticals deep downfield too.
Yeah, he's a deep threat for sure. Let's talk about Eli Dunn real quick, the quarterback for Northern Iowa. Last year, NDSU forced him to do what they wanted. Can they do that again this year?
I think so. I mean, just talking to some of the defensive coaches this week, they're going to mix up some looks. I think the biggest key for Northern Iowa is if they get in 3rd and long, they're in trouble. And Dunn, even though he's thrown 17 touchdown passes, he's thrown 8 interceptions this year as well. So he's made some critical mistakes. He's not that fleet of foot. He's a big kid, 6'5", 240 pounds, but he doesn't move particularly well in the pocket. And I think you can make him uncomfortable if you get some pressure on him early.
Yeah, the Bison, Brian, just to follow up on that, the Bison want to try to get the Panthers forced into passing, and it's not because Dunn can't pass it, it's because he can't run it. They beat him up big time last year.
Yeah, and if they can force him to do that today, that spells success for NDSU. And the thing is that NDSU's defense, they feel like they are really fresh this year. They've only played 350 snaps. The Bison on defense, when you feel fresh at this point in the season, that's a big deal, guys. It is North Dakota State and UNI, and this football game is going to be one thing, and that is physical. The Bison know it. UNI knows it. We'll continue to break this thing down, get you ready for kickoff right here. This is the KVLY KFYR Bison Television Network, and this is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison pregame show. Welcome back inside the Fargo Dome, where it is North Dakota State and number 25 UNI. This is Herdline News. It's another week and another honor for another Bison, and that is Jabril Cox, the freshman linebacker. He is on the watch list now for the FCS Jerry Rice Award that goes to the top freshman in the FCS. Cox leads the Bison with 32 tackles. He had 4 tackles and a sack in his first ever start at linebacker last week against Western Illinois. Cox is the first ever NDSU player nominated for the Jerry Rice Award. He's one of 17 players nationwide. Speaking of honors, how about former Bison Carson Wentz this week in front of the national spotlight on Monday Night Football? The second-year quarterback was named Offensive Player of the Week after his 4-touchdown performance against Washington in front of the national audience. Here's Wentz finding Zach Ertz, who pushes his way into the end zone. That put the Eagles up 17-10, and then Corey Clement, a 9-yarder from Wentz. It was 24-17. How about that to Nelson Aguilar? And everybody talking about this run where Carson Wentz became Houdini, got out of a sack, pushed forward for 17 yards, and then maybe the most special moment of the night was when Carson Wentz went up to the game with the game ball and visited Lucas Koesters. The Dutch Destroyer visited his family. Of course, Lucas Koester is the 10-year-old that passed away 13 days after meeting with Carson Wentz. There's his family, and what a moment for Carson Wentz as he was able to meet with the family who had sideline passes, and just a really special moment and fun to look at what Carson Wentz has become on the national spotlight. When I caught up with Chris Kleiman in the hallway, I had a chance to ask him about the former Bison who's now starring in Philadelphia. Coach, I know you don't get to see a lot of NFL games, but this week and the special things that happened with Carson Wentz, you have to be proud.
Oh, absolutely. I've been able to see him the last 2 times because they've been on prime time. So I wish he'd just play on prime time, not Sunday afternoon. But things that we all knew he was going to do, things that don't surprise us at all, but it's so fun to see and makes us so proud here.
Let's switch gears, talk about this football game, which is a big one. Again, an opponent that just sits a game back. Big game for UNI, big game for you guys.
Everyone's big. You know, as the games get deeper in the season, they get bigger. And our guys are ready for the challenge. It's going to be a really good football game between 2 really good teams, and it's going to come down to who can execute the best.
You're thin at running back. Tell us what the plan is this week.
Well, we'll ride Bruce. Ty will be ready to go. And Ty had a good week of practice, so we're going to ride those 2 guys and see where they take us. But everybody's kind of beat up probably this time of the season, and I'm excited we get Ty back.
They had 10 sacks last week against Youngstown. That jump out on paper like it did for me?
Oh, absolutely. And I give those guys credit. They did a great job of mixing up some pressures, and that's something we have to do a great job of turning protection and stuff. But we've got to protect Easton. We have to be able to run the football better than we did last week in the first half, and then we've got to do a great job protecting Easton because they're going to come after us.
Good luck today.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Couple of names you should know for UNI. It's number 99, Adam Reth, and number 7, Ricky Neal. Those are the 2 defenders that North Dakota State really concerned about today. They want to be able to take them on one-on-one with the offensive line. So North Dakota State on offensive line really have to be concerned with number 99 and number 7. It's important because NDSU, they want to throw the football early on downs today. That means Easton Stick, they want them to be effective on first down throwing the football, second down throwing the football. NDSU feels like if they can do that today, that they will be successful in this football game. From Northern Iowa, they really want to run the football right at NDSU. If they can run the football with Way Miller, then they feel like they will have success on that side of the football. So both teams want to do 2 different things. It sounds weird even to me to have NDSU looking to throw the football early. That doesn't mean deep down the field passes, but it does mean taking pressure off the running back position. And then for me, really looking forward to what Bruce Anderson can do as the feature back. We do expect Ty Brooks back, by the way. He dressed in warm-ups, and we assume he is a good today, but no doubt about it, Bruce Anderson will be the feature back for North Dakota State. We're getting closer to kickoff, and we are getting closer to a very good, oh, how about that? A very good pre-Halloween football game from the Fargo Dome. Not just get your horns up, get your masks up as well. It is, well, except for that guy. It is kickoff from the Fargo Dome coming up. We'll go back to our Fargo studios right after this.
Welcome back to the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show inside our Fargo studios, getting you set for North Dakota State and Northern Iowa. We have been talking kind of about the injuries that the Bison running backs have been facing. So let's go to our Bobcat heavy lifting player, and obviously it has to be Bruce Anderson today.
It has to be Bruce Anderson, and I'm really excited for this. It's Bruce's opportunity to come back into the spotlight role for NDSU football. He's had an outstanding run in his career, faced some injuries that have, I think, kind of pushed him behind, given Lance Dunn an opportunity to really kind of take that spotlight from him. But Bruce is 100% capable of carrying this workload for NDSU football.
Bruce has done a good job, and obviously you want to have that mix between Bruce and a Lance Dunn. Lance Dunn probably not going to go today for the Bison. So
and you know what? The coaching staff, this is a known fact. We knew Lance wasn't going to probably be able to play this week. So the coaching staff, I've been told, has been able to really pump up Bruce this week. He's gotten the full focus of that workload throughout practice. He's been kind of the main guy. He's gone into it all week knowing this is his week to shine and that he's going to have to carry this Bison football run game.
It's been a good season, unfortunately, for Lance Dunn, who leads the Bison with 12 touchdowns. He will not be going, so it is Bruce Anderson's game today. We're hearing some conflicting reports out there about some of the running back options that North Dakota State will have. Our sources are telling us there's not going to be any red shirts pulled today for the Bison.
Yeah, that's right. Wilson, a freshman out of Wisconsin, Seth Wilson, there are reports that he is having his red shirt pulled because of that depleted running back staff, but he is out there in his jersey.
He was warming
up with the team. But you know what? I think this is just an emergency factor. That's kind of what I've been told.
So what we've heard is that we'll see Bruce Anderson will get the lion's share of the carries. We've seen that Dimitri Williams can go back there. There's a few fullbacks that the Bison are okay with using in a running back type
role. Tight ends and receivers can do the jet sweep.
Yep, and so that's what we're going to see. So if you're seeing out there that maybe the Bison are pulling a red shirt on Seth Wilson, the running back number 30, odds are it's probably not going to happen unless.
Now something happens, and absolutely. But that's why you have a guy like that there. The thing is, there is no backup emergency guy for this running back crew anymore. So that's why you're going to have one of these red shirts. But this is a point in the year where you don't want to have to waste somebody's red shirt if you don't have to. And so that's why I'm fairly confident that this is just an emergency thing. But then again, you know, you trust this Bison coaching staff. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. We got a chance to catch up with Bruce Anderson to talk about, you know, the expanded role that he is going to have. We also caught up with his offensive coordinator, who had something to say about it as well. Take a listen.
The biggest thing we've got to keep doing now is making sure that we're building on top of the things we've already done. You know, we got to evaluate what we've done against people and how they've tried to stop it so we can keep moving forward.
There's Courtney Messingham there talking about the Bison and what they've done offensively to this point. We're going to hear from Bruce. And Bruce just saying, you know, yes, I'm ready to handle the load here and be able to be the feature back for the Bison. He hasn't really had to do that this year.
No, but he's confident and he is fully capable of, like I said, carrying this workload. This Bison offense, though, has so many other elements that they're capable of churning with. The run game is important. And one of the things that Courtney said to me, I asked him, how do you get the run game going against Northern Iowa? They're so tough. The strongest part of this football team is in their defense for the Panthers, especially in their front defensive line. Those are some tough guys, some big guys, and they can carry the workload. So how do you get past them and establish this run game. Courtney Messingham told me that's just what we do. We're going to run the football.
We're going to run the football.
And then he realized what he said, and he continued to kind of explain how you go about that. But part of that is that they have plenty of other weapons out there, and that's something that's been so much fun to watch in this Bison football team this year, is their ability to function on all of the different aspects of the game. You look at these wide receivers, they're having an outstanding year this year, primarily R.J. Urzendowski, but again, throughout the early parts of the season, we've seen some of those other guys shine. And then a big part that Courtney Messingham mentioned to me was these tight ends.
Yep.
You look at the success that they're having in that tight end position and in their ability to get all of those guys involved in a multitude of options.
It should be. We've heard that the Bison want to get the pass game going against this Northern Iowa defense. That's Northern Iowa's weakness, if you will, on defenses in their secondary. So certainly getting the passing game going, but you definitely don't want to be one-dimensional and only have the pass game option available for you. It would be nice to have the running game working as well.
Yeah, and something else that Mess said this week is that they have really been able to succeed this year and reach so much success on the offensive side of the ball because of the input that he's been getting from all of his assistants. And that's been a big part of this success for the Bison. And it's something that Courtney said that he really wanted to see, that he expected when he took over this role. He told all of those offensive coaches he wants their input, he wants to see what they have to say. And that's a huge benefit to have when it comes to a rivalry game like Northern Iowa. You can call on things that Northern Iowa tends to do against the Bison, the history of that rivalry. But more than anything, what I really like about this game is the fresh eyes that Courtney Messingham brings to the table. I think that's been a huge part of the success this year for the Bison.
You bring that up. I think that's a very good point to bring up, is that NDSU is the same offense with different wrinkles, and that is a nightmare to prepare for if you're expecting to see the same thing year after year after year with a few little different things mixed in. But this is Bison football just with more wrinkles put in, and it's smash mouth, run the football at you. But
it's another dimension.
But there's so many more moving parts and pieces that Courtney Messingham has brought, and I think that's been a very key part to the Bison's success.
I think it'll be a game changer this week.
Should be certainly something to keep our eyes on. Today, let's go back out to the tailgate lot. Mike Morkin's standing by, and he found some people that are impossible to find. Let's just that's where it is.
Take it away.
All right, thanks so much. We're back out here in the tailgate section in a tent that's nice and warm on a day when it's just a little bit chilly, but we're ready to play the hot trivia game right now, and I've got two contestants. And hi there. What's your name?
Carmen Sandiego.
Carmen Sandiego is with us today. And Carmen, are you ready to play our trivia?
Yeah, you guys found me.
We found you. Yes, where the heck is Carmen? She's right here. Okay, here's our first question. Who holds the Bison record for the longest punt return for a touchdown? It's 98 yards. Was it Fritz Hansen or Wilhelm Klink? Fritz Hansen or Wilhelm Klink? You can help her out. Fritz Hansen is the correct answer, Carmen. Way to go. Do you know who Wilhelm Klink is?
No.
Hogan's Heroes, yes. You're supposed to say, I know nothing. I know nothing. All right, congratulations. You win a $50 gift card to the True Blue Social Club. Thank you so much. All right, well, where's Waldo? Where's my next contestant at? Oh, he's here. He's here. Waldo, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Where you been?
Where am I?
Oh, that's a long question. That's a long answer, I bet. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Who kicked the longest field goal for the NDSU Bison football team? It was 55 yards. Was it Ken Johnson or Ole Larson? Ken Johnson or Ole Larson?
Ken Johnson.
Is he correct? Yeah. He is correct. It's Ken Johnson. 1997 against SDSU.
Oh, nice.
All right. Congratulations. You will now know where Waldo is at. He'll be at the Lucky's 13 pub. He's got a $50 gift card. Thank you so much for dressing up. Thank you so much for being here. Let's send it back to the studio.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. Just about 5 minutes until we send you back out to the Fargo Dome for kickoff between the Bison and the Panthers. More of the pregame show to come right after this.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Just about 2.5 minutes to go until we get you out to the Fargo Dome for our game against Northern Iowa and North Dakota State.
I didn't know where we were going.
I didn't know where we were going. That's on our Coors Light countdown clock. Let's get the final thoughts from the guys out there at the Dome.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Things I'll look for in this football game is first NDSU's offensive line. You remember that UNI had 10 sacks last week against Youngstown. I want to see if the Bison offensive line is up to that pressure and see how they will handle that. Other than that, offensively for NDSU, I want to see Bruce Anderson work as the primary tailback. He hasn't done that in his career. Today, expect 20, maybe 25 carries out of Bruce and see how he responds. Upstairs to you guys.
All right, thanks, Ryan. I think my final thoughts going into this football game is to see how North Dakota State can continue to confuse the quarterback for Northern Iowa, Eli Dunn. They forced him into some tough decisions last year when they played the game at the Unidome. I'm expecting them to mix up some looks today and see if they can force some turnovers. He has thrown 8 interceptions this season.
My final thought is from a Bison offensive standpoint, and when you look at the UNI defense, where is it most vulnerable? And I think that's on the back end. They have a redshirt freshman corner who has been picked on this year. They also have a safety who the Bison think they can pick on this year. So I expect the Bison to go deep over the middle for a touchdown or two.
Beth Alex, back to you.
Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to an emotional, highly contested contest out there between NDSU and UNI. This one's personal for this coaching staff, and I love these games for the Bison when they have the opportunity to really lay it on someone.
I think this game comes down to who has the better quarterback, and I think North Dakota State has the better quarterback. Easton Stick has been playing at a crazy high level all season long. I expect to see that continue today. Yes, the running back situation does make me a little bit nervous, but I think it'll come down to who has the better quarterback. If I were a betting man, I'd be putting it all on 12 in green.
He is a betting man.
I am.
So.
No, easy. All right. That'll do it for the Farmers Union Insurance Bison football pregame show. We thank you so much for joining us. We will send it out to the Fargo Dome. Brian Shawn, Lee Timmerman, and Ryan Gellner on the call. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you at halftime.